Good afternoon. Welcome everyone to the next session. We are doing a session understanding how the education tech sector uh, has performed beyond the COVID pandemic hype. And in this session, we have a power-packed panel, a stellar panel who has spent time in the education employability space, as well as folks who are in the digital transformation of education tech area as well. So we have Mr. Akshay, who is currently the founder and CEO of LeverageEdu. He has been a strong proponent of the study abroad space, and he has done wonderful for himself and for his company in the last couple of years. Akshay happens to be someone who has been at this for a long period of time. We have Upneet, who is interestingly doing the study India space. That's his core business. He has spent close to 4 or 5 years building out this brick by brick. We have Varun, who needs no introduction. He is one of the, I would say, the founding, people who would have started something in the education space and the employability space like long time back, even before entrepreneurship was something that people used to chase. Varun comes from Aspiring Minds. Today, they have been acquired by SHL, and he continues to be the chief AI officer in SHL and handling responsibilities and Aspiring Minds. We have Ashwini, who is a person who is dedicating himself to solving the digital transformation part. He's trying to bring more tutors online. Again, another interesting space. We have Nikhil, who has a view into a lot of startups as part of his early career. Trying to work with the mentor for a lot of startups in UINCEPT as well as outside UINCEPT portfolio as well. And we start the session with looking at the education tech sector a little bit. I think for me personally, education tech sector, when we started off, when we went into the whole lockdown phase, what we observed was something very fundamental. So I was of the view that this is one sector which thankfully is not going to be affected the way other companies might be and other sectors might be. So it's a huge responsibility for probably folks in the education tech sector to ensure that things are up and running. We saw a lot of positivity in the sector in terms of customer acquisition, people getting warmed up to the whole fact of learning online and digital. We also saw through the cracks of how much online and live learning will be able to serve a larger segment of customers sitting out of India. To give you some context, the sector attracted probably 4x the kind of funding that it would have received in 2019, 2020. We went up north of 1.5 billion. Of course, it was led by some of the late stage companies, but there was a lot of traction on the early stage startup as well. So I'm going to start off the session by asking the participants to give a slightly more detailed introduction about themselves. I would like to start off with Upneet. Upneet, if you could start off, then we go to the other set of panelists.
Sure. Thanks, Sumesh. Thanks for the introduction. So I am the founder of GetmyUni. We started back in 2015, trying to build out a social college search platform. So think of it like a TripAdvisor for colleges. So we started with the Indian market. First 2 to 3 years, we've been building that out. So in our 5th year, so today we run, I would say, 3 small business units within the entire group. One is, of course, our core business, which is wherein we help students identify which is the right fit for them in terms of colleges, course, etc. So it's more of a college search platform. Thanks to the pandemic, we also entered the online learning space via 2 core verticals. One is essentially helping universities take their programs online. So it's sort of a OPM play. We are on our way to kind of sign our first 2 university partnerships. And the last vertical is essentially slightly in the study abroad space. So extend our core study in India business to study abroad. So there we do both study abroad enrollments as well as we have an IELTS learning platform. So a bunch of small things, but broadly, this is what we essentially do.
Thank you so much, Upneet. Varun, could you make a slightly more detailed introduction apart from what I said?
Sure, Sumesh. Thanks for having me. So we've started Aspiring Minds, as Sumesh said, way back. We started in 2008 when entrepreneurship was still budding in India. And we started with this idea on how do we make it a level playing field when it comes to people getting jobs. And that was the idea. And our way was that we will do it using standardized assessments, scientifically developed technology-driven assessments of various job skills, anywhere from language, cognitive skills, personality, and functional skills. And it was me and my brother Himanshu started the business. If I look at the milestones, the business started, as I said, in 2008. The business scaled well in India, and finally, both on the B2B side and B2C side. So we selling assessments to companies. We started with the IT sector and went into banking, retail, and many other sectors. And on the B2C side, we were catering to engineers. And finally, we started making international forays into China, Philippines, and finally USA over time. And interestingly, and machine learning is talked about a lot, but we were one of the front runners in that. We got out our first spoken English product way back in 2012 to measure pronunciation and fluency. And I had the good fortune of running a small AI research lab within Aspiring Minds, which was one of the few groups which also publishes in top conferences other than bring out AI products. So long story short, we got acquired by SHL in November of 2019. And now I am helping SHL with their AI strategy globally. And we got acquired, and just after a few months, the pandemic hit. And love to talk more about what happened after that, Sumesh.
Great, awesome. So we have Ashwini. Ashwini, what is Winuall all about, and what is that you're doing?
So, Sumesh, I'm Ashwini, one of the co-founding members at Winuall. We have been into a sector which is actually the backbone to the entire education ecosystem, at least in India. So what we believe is that tutors definitely are the backbone of the entire education and are helping from decades now for students to, right from their starting age to the date they actually graduate, or even after that, to help them get jobs also. So what we believe is that we have seen that all the industries, apart from the tutoring industry, is seeing a massive adoption of technology. But tutors are actually working the traditional way. Like they have a classroom, they'll go, they teach, they'll share some notes, take exams offline. There is no change actually in past few decades, and which is where we want to disrupt that. Help all the tutors go digital, leverage technology, and nowadays there are like a lot of new ways to adapt to actually see the learning patterns of a student, to right away determine that which students are not performing well, who is actually performing really well, which topic do we need to revise again. And on the top of it, what we saw is that tutors have limited scope of revenue also. They are limited by boundaries. They don't have additional scope of revenue apart from what they are teaching to a couple of students, and which is where we aim to help them in each and every aspect to increase their source of income in a longer run, and step their digital brand online. So this is what we are doing, and definitely after pandemic, we have seen a lot more adoption from tutors, because that was only the source of teaching, and which is where I think now there is the next couple of years and at least a decade would be very, very important for the tutoring ecosystem in India.
Great. Thank you so much, Ashwini, for that introduction. Nikhil, what have you been up to in the last 12 months? What is that you have seen before that? And so, what is it that you... what is it that you've seen forward?
So, I've been mentoring startups now for more than 4 years, and right from European Union to United Nations to startups in California to Israel. I was myself a global product head, and one of my baby projects was Cisco WebEx, which I took from zero to $300 million with 28% operating margins in 2 years' time. You must have all used WebEx Teams. So I brought that forte, and I've started mentoring startups. And there always was adoption of technology, but not at the rate what we have seen now. So when your question to pre and post COVID, right? One thing is that there is more willingness to adopt technology even in households. जैसे हम बोलते हैं दादी माँ भी technology बोलती है बेटा बताओ क्या है ये. So we have seen that wave coming, but at the same time, it has brought more challenges. Good thing is, out of 2,000 companies which have actually been created in the last 1 year, 30 in India startups, 30% of them are in the edtech sector. Now, this is good news and bad news both. And we all can talk about the happy days, but there are even rainy days coming. The reason is the barrier to entry is lowered. Today, knowing AI is not a big deal. I've led AI teams globally, so I understand that there was a time when it was really a niche skill set. Today, it is a must-have. Because you want to scale, and at the same time you want to reduce your marginal cost and talk about personalization. One thing what I have seen though, what has happened is for example, schools have been adopting, but the LMSs have been imperfect, sure, but there has been an adoption curve. Similarly, a lot of B2C content has been created, but content is just, if you see, is just a commodity now. And the revenue have spiked for sure. From September onward, we saw a lot of edtech startups hitting good revenue spikes. The thing is about the challenges at the crossing the chasm, when you plateau out. So the challenges which I see is that the fundamental disruptions have not happened. Offering online courses or offering ERP solutions is one thing, but the underlying disruptions, for example, still creation of content is a very expensive proposition, right? Solving for that, or scaling video at large scale, that becomes a problem. Digital fatigue, that's another thing I've seen, which is having a core fundamental issue. Teachers adopting but still getting confused with tools because they are not seamless at this point of time is again one of the problems. And the lastly, I would say is we have seen the growth, but the ball begins now whether we are going to retain or not, because you don't create unicorns, or forget, you don't even get healthy companies if you just grow without healthy retention rate. So I think it's still early days from that perspective. There are miles to go. We have seen that edtech, healthcare, and supply chain are three sectors which are life essentials. A lot of micro learnings have come up, so that's a great thing. But core fundamental disruptions I'm still not seeing coming out from the ecosystem.
That's interesting, Nikhil. And so I think we have Akshay joining as well. Akshay, is there?
I'm there. Hi, what's up?
Hey, hi, Akshay. Akshay, so we are doing one quick round of introductions, so we would like to hear from you, so that the audience knows about what you're doing and what is happening.
Awesome. No, thanks. Great to be here amongst friends. I run LeverageEdu. We are a study abroad platform that helps students from India, from over 36 cities, go to universities across the world. We help them with things right from the beginning in terms of where they should head to, what course should they select, what country should they be in, all the way to helping them with their applications, and then essentially loading on a bunch of value-added services like helping them find accommodation, their education loans, Forex, all the way up to making sure that they reach the dorm room. So right from discovery to dorm room is what we do. And I always feel very happy when I'm giving off this intro these days, because it's taken me 4 years to realize the niche I'm focusing on. So I think when I started the company probably 4 years back, and if you'd ask me what I do, I would tell you that I'm building this AI-enabled algorithm and some other bullshit I would essentially wrap into my intro. So it's taken me a good 3-4 years to realize the niche I am focused on and building for, and to kind of just be super focused on that and build for that. So yeah, that's in short, that's what we do. We are a study abroad platform. We are right now, we helped about close to 4,000 students last year. We are at a rate of helping 600 to 700 students every single month right now. And we are predominantly focused on helping students go to UK, Canada, Australia, US, rest of Europe, and about 15% of our businesses helping students get to India.
Okay, great.
That's what we are.
Thanks, Akshay, for the candidness on explaining what business you are in. And the second thing which I am trying to understand, in fact, the first question comes to you. What has happened in the study abroad space? And the context of the question is from people trying to gain mobility to get to other countries. What has happened probably in the first 2 quarters of the calendar year? What changed in the last 2 quarters of last year? And what is happening right now?
यार तो दो बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग चीजें हुई हैं just to kind of put it in perspective. One is that I've realized our business is macro proof in some sense. Because every single time a country would come in and say that, for example, we have one of our Upneet chat about this competitor a lot, who essentially made gold because Trump came in and said that I won't let anybody come in the US shores. And with the same thing happening right now, for example, when I see that one country closes its borders, the other one opens up its arms like anything. They bring down the immigration laws. They essentially make it more easy for people to get there. They make it easy for people to finish the studies and work there. So that's what we've seen the last year. We had UK and Australia open up when it was becoming slightly hard for people to get to Canada, which had been the the most attractive destination for the last couple of years. So UK launched this thing called the PSW, which is the post-study work visa. So when you head to the UK, once you finish your studies, you can spend 2 years there, and those years will essentially help you get a job and just kind of have a more firm gathering. And given the Brexit, given a bunch of other things that are happening in the UK right now, it just makes it a great place for Indians to be at. And that whole myth of foreign education is expensive is absolutely crap, because you can go to London School of Economics for 15 lakh rupees and do your program, and you can go to Manipal, lovely professional university, and BL Munjal Ashoka, and it's like twice or thrice as expensive. So that is one. The second thing is, I think, of course, COVID is super. I'll keep it brief. Of course, COVID is very unfortunate. I've gone through it myself. But it's given our business, given it was digital, a big tailwind in some sense. For example, in February, we realized that a large part of our business in terms of student acquisition, reaching out to the students, was in an offline manner. We had these, if you've seen these big offline fairs in convention hotels and like big centers, so on and so forth, where 1,000 people would collect in and kind of speak with the university representatives. So that got completely culled out, right? So we came up with this platform called UniConnect last year, and we said that, hey, universities sitting in your house, we're going to give you a chance to directly, in a platform like this, speak to the students and give them spot on offers. And the student, because we have their entire information uploaded on our platform, they can click on one single apply now button, just like you have chat, Q&A, join people here, and they can kind of apply to the university and have an offer come in like less than 24 hours. Generally, the TAT for this is about 3 weeks. So this was crazy. So I think that's given us a lot of tailwind in terms of our monthly revenue. We jumped about 7x pre-COVID and post-COVID. And we have hired 120 folks remotely. And now as we kind of bringing these guys back to office, as we've assumed at 6G office, we're figuring out how to kind of have enough space to make sure we can bring back that same culture of hustle in a office environment that we were kind of used to before the COVID period. So interesting period, great learnings, both micro and macro, and would love to share more as we proceed on.
Great, awesome. Thanks for that, Akshay. Varun, I think I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. One is around trying to understand how the whole assessments, sector, how a company is responding to the whole space. Because hiring, I think there was a lull during April, May, and then it started slowly picking up. And right now, as we see it, companies, most of the large IT companies are like scrambling for talent right now, and they're trying to figure out the supply. Now, for you, was that the major business focus area in terms of corporates, buying the assessments, etc.? How did that work out? Second, once the acquisition happened with SHL, how did things change, and how are things proceeding right now?
Sure. So, Sumesh, I think you're right. So there was some time where there was challenge on hiring numbers, and our business does relate a lot to people hiring. But there was a dip for some time, and then it started recovering fast. But as we all know, what COVID did is it started accelerating the use of digital platforms and digital tools, right? So what really happened is that one, we could cross sell on top of our current offerings to customers who were hiring and for whatever numbers they were hiring. By the way, another thing happened, right? So hiring decreased, but applicants per job kind of increased.
Yeah.
Because there were lesser jobs. So if you're an assessment company, you're still selling a lot of assessments because for the same position, now more people are applying. But then what is also happening is that, as I said, right, there's larger adoption of digital tools. For example, our smart interview platform it kind of suddenly became a big hit with companies. So we've been trying to convince them for maybe year and a half, saying that you should start using the smart interview platform, and it's more efficient. Your people don't have to travel, and so on and so forth. And they were not ready to use it, and they were taking their sweet time. In the business we are in, the enterprise sales cycles can go anywhere from 9 to 15 months, and new technology adoption takes it sweet time. But this kind of really ramped it up, right? When we come out of the pandemic, the good news would be that the traditional business will return, but there's been acceleration of some of the new products, which would have taken more time to adopt. Similarly, we have been pushing companies to use auto proctoring solutions for very, very long. They would rather go and do tests at either their location or on a campus and have physical proctors. And we've been saying that, oh, you should use this auto proctoring technology or use live proctors. And that suddenly accelerated during this period of time as well. So net, it is when we come out of the pandemic, we'll be a stronger company. And as being part of SHL, again, you're playing in a more global geography. So if one place deaccelerates a little, the other one takes care of it, and the business is highly diversified, which helps. I think the big question would be that we are doing a lot of things have moved digital, and some have moved to digital, but we really don't like it, them being digital. Like, at least for this panel, I don't like that we are doing this online. I would have liked to meet all of you guys and meet the audience. Absolutely. And so on. Right. So some of these things will move back. And so some of the things which are showing up in business right now will go down, or we need better platforms. Right now, we are all forced to use the digital kind of thing. And the real productivity gain would come where after going digital, we don't feel the need of doing it offline. Right. And I think that's what will become clear in the next 6 to 9 months as we come out of the pandemic. And then that will be the litmus test for some of the digital tools which have accelerated in the last 9 to 12 months.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Varun. Upneet, I think the broader trend in terms of study in India, I know that you branched out into 2 verticals during this time. How did the whole scenario shape up here? I mean, I'm guessing colleges were ready to give admissions on a online basis, and they're ready to run classes as well. So did it affect you in a great positive way? And what about the 2 new sub-units that you have started spending time on and trying to scale that up?
Sure. So Sumesh, I still very vividly remember the day when the news of COVID kind of spread in India, and frankly, I was in denial. I was always someone who kind of believed that being in office is like fundamentally important, and we till then didn't even have a work from home policy, and I'll come to that. But so immediately what happened back in March last year was that universities were at a loss as to what to do, because all the fundamental exams which kind of bring these inflection points in admissions के JEE main हो गया, right? उसका result आया और boards happen, the results come out, and that's when students start paying the fee. That kind of became unclear. Because of that, what happened was, so April, May, so suddenly colleges went incommunicado. They didn't know, no payments were made. So I would say the first couple of months were super brutal, right? We also kind of figured out, hey, what's going to happen? We continued what we do, but still was super unsure about how things will pan out. But I think there was kind of a 3-month period wherein we also weren't sure that how things will pan out, or will things get fundamentally disrupted as to what colleges do, and will students completely go for digital education. All of that happened, but I think within the first 3 months it got clear. What happened was that some of the larger brands who had financial muscle, of course, very quickly moved to online education. Their communication changed to students. They set up large offline virtual academic counseling centers, and things came back to normal. There was still, so we were gunning for a 200-ish%, like growing 3x, 200% kind of growth. We did not meet those numbers, slightly fell by about, I would say, 20 to 30%. But overall, it was a year of growth, right? Fairly strong, 1.5, 2x kind of a growth. Overall, I think it, again, as Akshay rightly pointed out, it was a fairly negative event for the world. But I think for the Indian university ecosystem, it was slightly positive because a lot of small side operations which masquerade as colleges, right? Single building colleges, MBA colleges, which call them as PGDM colleges, really suffered because they literally survive on a cash to cash basis. Face leave, and you pay professor salaries, and they don't even deserve to be universities, or rather colleges, right? So large brands kind of sustained, smaller ones got hit much worse off than they would have anticipated, and hence I think the quality of universities that would go and flourish going from here on would be much better. And it's better for us also because at the end of the day, we are a student enrollment company, and we also want to give those colleges and universities, or offer those colleges and universities to our students who we also really want to work with, right? And unfortunately, yes, I won't kind of cover the fact we have worked with a few colleges in the past wherein we felt, hey, this is not even like worth working with, right? We are not doing students a favor. So that was one. Second, and this was more, I would say, serendipitous than kind of planned for, we were looking to get into digital education and were in conversations with the companies for an acquisition. And that kind of, luckily for us, the moment that deal kind of culminated was when the need for learning management systems and these assessment solutions were at its peak. So we again, that's been slight, and UGC, which is the central regulatory body which kind of makes these decisions as to whether universities can offer online degrees or not, sprung into action. So a lot of positive things happened there. And the third, I would say, so third business went through it's not really at this point in time a business. So we made an acquisition in the study abroad space, and that kind of saw a 50% dip in the first month, right? I don't know if Akshay saw that, but so that's an IELTS prep platform. But so March, this happened, and April, we were at 50% of our traffic, right? And this is organic traffic. So we kind of put that on the back burner, but now we are seeing increased demand than ever before, right? So we are currently slightly training, and we offer a lot of material to study. So every month we have about 1 million students, not 1 million students, 1 million traffic, and about 500,000 students who come to that platform for studying free of cost. We are planning to kind of ramp that also with online learning. So I think overall across all three, there was an initial dip, but I think things have kind of crossed the pre-COVID numbers in all of these three verticals. So that's been the journey for us.
Sounds interesting, Upneet. Quite a roller coaster, if I were to put it that way.
Right.
Ashwini, so I'm guessing your sector would have seen upticks for sure in terms of, you walk into a coaching institute, any of these teachers, the first thing they don't want to do is to go online. And now they have no other option rather than to do something to go online. And they were getting to understand how to move and see how their operations can be done online. What was it for you? What were some of the numbers that you were seeing? How did your product uptake happen? And most importantly, what are the different use cases that these folks are demanding before they want to go online?
Sumesh, obviously, you pointed right that there was a lot of resistance, I would say, before COVID, especially to teach online, because they were very much comfort. Like there was a kind of comfort zone for all of the tutors, especially they'll go to their coaching institution, they're happy with their 100, 200 folks teaching them in classes, giving them their branded material, etc. Plus, going online always felt impossible for them. They were like that, how would we compete with even like tens of other big players out in the market? And which is where like there was a lot of resistance. But again, COVID left no choice rather than to just go online and explore all the opportunities and build their business. And which is where I feel that there was a lot of demand that suddenly got generated. And on the top of it, there were like a lot of other use cases that came across. We never ever tried building live classes because we knew that there was not at all a need of that. And which is where we were only focusing on making complementary services as well as helping them to run their coaching business in a way. Maybe they'll conduct tests online, they'll sort of share notes online, but not replace the offline coaching. Now, during COVID, again, like people started exploring a lot of solutions, and with exploring solutions, were again a set of more problems that started coming up. Tutors never went, on a digital kind of conferencing solution, maybe Zoom, Google Meet. It was all new for them, and which is where like it was very hard to sort of explain that how to teach digitally, right? And on the other end, we all know how students behave while learning online as well. They'll try their best to not let tutors focus on teaching, and which is where like the need to build a solution which is easy, as well as kind of that mimics the offline ecosystem. The classroom where there are like some restrictions, as well as there are like tools that are built especially to cater a tutor was needed. Apart from that, I feel that tutors started losing a lot of revenue. People were not ready for such kind of a situation, and all of a sudden, like coachings were shut down, and tutors actually were not able to even teach. Students started demanding such solutions, and they started moving to some or the other platform, either to a tutor which has some sort of online visibility, or I would say the big brands out there who are providing some sort of learning courses online. This made tutors realize that ऐसे तो नहीं चलेगा, like, that kind of attitude. And when they started exploring, they also realized that how important building their own online presence and brand is, and which is where I think we have seen a great demand. While COVID has now started declining, and at the same time, like I think most of the coachings have again resumed, they have gone in an offline mode. But at the same time, the I would say that COVID was kind of a biggest marketing or educating campaign for all the tutors to make them realize that how important it is to go online and build their online presence. I'll give few examples. Like there is a tutor in Jammu, so they were completely teaching offline, and while COVID hit, like luckily they just onboarded a few months back on our platform, and like there are a lot less tutors in Jammu or these areas, I would say, for specific coachings, and which is where when that tutor was actually ready with all the set of tools that he required, he completely moved online, and he started teaching students even from Kerala, Maharashtra. And the beauty of internet is that there is no boundary, right? There are no boundaries. You could reach out to any person with a single click or with a single set of instruction, and which is where teachers also started exploring new possibilities of making money. So previously, before COVID, it was just your locality, just your society, which was your targeted audience. But now there are like hundreds of millions of students who could be your targeted audience, and which is where teachers now started demanding a way to sell their online courses, to build their brand, to help them support in marketing, to help them support going online and deliver a high class experience, a teaching experience. And on the other end, students also started expecting the same from tutors, that my tutor should provide me an online quizzing platform, a way to ask doubts, a way to submit my payments, and everything started actually digitizing. And which is where I think the major areas where we saw demand was, first of all, teaching online. The second was collecting payments, and the most important was actually to help them go digital and sell their online courses and help them earn more revenue, which is where in 2021 and 22, our main focus would be to sort of, help these tutors earn more and sell online. 2020 was all about bringing them online, giving them the first time experience and the experience that they deserve, rather than, just to, I would say, just settle down for some or the other solution. And 21, 22 would be the years where we would focus a lot on basically helping them open up new ways and opportunities to earn more and explore new kind of again ways to build their own brand digitally and explore opportunities to sell.
Sure. Thanks for that, Ashwini. That was very detailed, and there were a lot of insights around that, around how the teachers were behaving. So I'm going to start the next question with Nikhil, but I would like to hear from the other panelists as well. I think, Nikhil, you had a viewpoint that probably fundamental innovations were not happening in the education tech sector. And so my view has been that probably companies were not focusing on customer outcomes. Again, there was a drift towards chasing out vanity metrics, probably not focusing a lot on the customer experience side, but it was more around, let me go and build revenue left, right, and center. So that's one trend that I've seen. And what is it that you had in the back of your mind when you're saying that there were no fundamental innovations happening?
So, see, I'll tell you what, definitely 2020 was the era of adoption, right? And we should not confuse adoption, growth, and innovation. This predominantly disruption. The three different things, three different axes. So yes, there was an adoption, and there were dips in revenue. Then we saw the revenue start coming up in October, September, November timeframe. We saw that companies started getting comfortable with online, and like Ashwini was saying, a lot of online tutors started coming up. Now, what's going to happen is, adopting a WebRTC video stack for live streaming, or for example, creating a content today is something which I told you there are out of 2,000 startups, 30% were Edtech companies. And all of them are creating content. Somebody doing B2B, somebody doing B2C, irrespective of the business model. So, of course, this is not something which is something new. We always have, a lot of competitions sniffing out wherever the opportunities are. When I mean by core disruption, I mean fundamentally not only at the technology level, but disruption in unit economics in terms of marginal cost. So, for example, when you want to solve for content creation, right? So, content creation is still a challenge. The economies of cost is too high. The time is too high. No one is solving that as a B2B, as a service. Or when you want to talk about, personalization engines for learning, everybody wants to create the car, nobody wants to create a seat belt. But what I realized is content is a commodity, guys. Okay, you might like it, and I've seen this. I've spent 17 years in tech, led one of the top global companies in the world, seen everything from AI to you name it. What is going to happen is very soon, because today you have SDKs, you have APIs, you would see competition coming in. And yes, customer excellence, and I don't blame. See, the thing is, where your rewards and incentives lie. The rewards and incentives was for any startup was to get a growth curve, right? So when COVID struck, first was what do we do? And two, startups which are already on the digital wave, for them it was an opportunity sniffed, and tutors nahi hai, offline tutors hai, to maybe unko pura ka pura online platform, you could sell them at a certain injection point and tell them, come online, we'll give you a content creation, we'll give you live media streaming, we'll give you a proctored exam and blah, 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 all that journey. The challenge now will be crossing the chasm. And for crossing the chasm, it's not going to be just offering features. Yes, customer experience is going to is very important. Personalization, I don't mean by showing कि इसको ये आता नहीं है तो मैं इसको अब now we will tell the student कि उसको that if you don't understand this concept, we will dynamically understand it and push you the right question. But personalization inherently actually here means is the overall customer experience or the consumer experience for a teacher as well as for the students. And more importantly, it is about dynamically understanding the learning styles, the pedagogy, whether it's a visual learner, a caustic learner, and dynamically curating. This is hard. This is not something I expect startups to do on day one. And typically Indian startups focus more on the growth curve, on the short hanging fruits. That has been the nature I've seen even, after for many years. Nothing bad about it. Adoption was the era. Growth is 2021 will be the era of growth. I think 2022 will be the era where you will see consolidation happening, which is, we are seeing a lot of consolidation will happen, I think, in 2022 in EdTech sector. And more importantly, companies that will survive will focus only on two customer metrics, that will be retention through personalization. And that's what I'm repeating, and customer excellence. And unit economics disruption through using technology. I met a startup which actually is compressing the video streams so that learning LMS solutions across the world can save 30% of the cost. They didn't even have to sell their solution to anyone. They didn't even have to do anything. They just went to the service provider, said, look, we have a video web RTC solution which compresses 30%. Do you want to save 20% of the cost? Dhande ki baat. Obviously, that it's an Israeli company, and we have an alliance with them. I'll not name them at the moment, but AT&T, Verizon in the US to Airtel in India, they got them rolling in a few weeks' time. and now they have got millions of streams on a daily basis. So my point is, it is a good start. The adoption is coming. This year, 2021 will be of growth. 2022 should be about consolidation and disruption in both the unit economics metrics as well as in the technology metrics. So personalization, privacy, and piracy. That's something I've also seen. I've also talked about digital content creation tools are too many. Teachers can't use so many tools. I talked to the head of NCRT, UGC, and we had meetings and we asked them what are the issues. So they saying, look, how do we? First of all, there's a digital fatigue. Then simple thing like when teacher is speaking, after some time sounds like one-way communication. How do we interject and tell the teacher at that point of time? Sure, AI can do that, but those have to be built. And LMS are still fragmented. Video kahin aur ho raha hai, proctored kahin aur ho raha hai, content kahin aur ho raha hai. And you trust me, your teachers, specifically when you go to tier 2, tier 3, they are not. The last bit which I think has really suffered is low income households, and unfortunately we never focus there, that how do we break or create lightweight digital adoption tools. Even if you could maybe have some freebies, basic content that can be offered, that model is still I saw where people suffered. So it was not that it was all good. It was a K curve where I saw that the cities adoption had become very good. Even tier 2 cities were beautiful in adopting because it was the adoption era. But low income households, kids, they struggled. And specifically, if they had to go digital, they found it very expensive. So these are my, I think, insights after actually looking at portfolio of more than 40-50 edtech companies in the last 1 year. And at the same time, when I looked at across the globe. But this is not something that is only to India, right? So, but adoption is 2020, growth is 2021. I think personalization is you guys should focus on, because 21-22 you would see that thing being hit, the top priority.
Okay, thanks, Nikhil, for that. Akshay, what do you think the sector needs to really get in terms of could be product, in terms of adoption, in terms of how founders look at the companies? What are your views? It could be in your space or across.
Sumesh, you mind repeating a little bit? The voice.
Sumesh, I think you're having some echo.
Is it audible now?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
It's still there.
Is it?
I think it's better, but
it's better. Okay. Akshay, so the question was, what are some of the things the sector really needs to get right in terms of how founders look at their companies, in terms of the products, in terms of what they really set out to solve for customers. What you have seen in your last 3-4 years of journey, I mean, it's irrespective of COVID or the pandemic. What are some of the things that you think that the sector should really get right?
Sure. No, I think I'll keep it brief. I think one is that it's really important that we build, that we have a very product first thinking when we're building anything. I think that is something that I missed out while we were kind of just beginning out, because I started the company in a phase where I had seen startups that I was personally a part of before I started Leverage going down under the bus, because they had focused too much on the product piece and the unit economics were completely haywire. So my first kind of default mode was always to look at the unit economics, to look at how does it really make sense as a dhanda? How does it really make sense for it to be a sustainable business, come what may, whatever might happen. But I think over time you realize that to really scale things, for example, I think that's been a bigger realization in 2020, where we realized that as we bring in more people, as we try and reach more customers, it's very important that you have the right. I would even go forward and say that when we use the word product, it sometimes gets confused with only tech. So when I say productize, what I actually mean is processize, and having systems and balances against how you want to do simple things. It could be as simple as just mapping up the customer journey and having it put everywhere across the office, and everybody knowing that, hey, when a customer calls in or when a customer logs onto my platform and asks this question, this is how the chatbot will respond, this is how the automated dialer in will respond, this is how our counselor will respond. So having it consistency in terms of the customer experience, having that process built out where at every single level you have those checks and balances, you have the structures in place so that as you scale, things don't break out. Because I think that's the most common thing that happens at startups. The other thing that I've realized is I think this has been predominantly, it's worked in my favor in the company over the last 3-4 years is I think it's, as a founder, it's very important to focus on a couple of core things and get them right, and then kind of put everything else in a process. So for me, hiring has always been something that I spend a lot of my time on. So even today, I'm spending about 30 to 40% of my time only on hiring. And over the last couple of years, I've also realized that one single right hire in your company can completely change things. And if you're not actively thinking about making yourself redundant, if I'm doing the same thing that I was doing the last year or the year before that, the company isn't growing in some sense. And that's what I kind of do every single month, even today. That is a very core focus of how I look at growing the company. The idea right now is that folks who are coming in at the moment, say last year or the year before that, I'm trying to now make them redundant by having them pick up their left and right hands and taking the company forward. So just kind of keep it super brief. I'll end it at that. I would say it's important to processize things, and it's important to pick up, for the founders to pick up those 1 or 2 core things that they really want to focus on, which will give them exponential returns. For me, it was getting that entire ops house in order and having that product first thinking built out in the company for every single person. It's important that it's not just the product team's prerogative to think about the product, it's the sales team's prerogative as well. It's important that everybody across the entire org is thinking about how can I solve this in a better way, because those are the folks who are chatting with the customer every single moment, every single hour, every single minute. And like I said, I would always focus a lot on hiring the right folks and then spending enough time with them. So for example, what I do to kind of map that out is, because I know it's important, I divide my day in multiple categories, which says that operational leadership time with these folks, leadership team 1:1, internal meetings, and then I actually track my time across the end of every day, and then essentially collate it at the end of every month to see that do these align with my OKRs that I had set out in the beginning of the year, that I wanted to spend more time with my leadership, that I wanted to possibly have 10 people in the company of 150 people who will be able to drive things forward, who will be able to make sure that the vision is carried forward to every single last person as well. And now we are doing things like MNPS, which is a manager NPS, and which basically tells us that every manager who gets a score of more than 33, and it can go -100 to +100. If any manager is getting a score of 33 plus, we've realized that the whole what's the right word for it? I think assimilation of the vision, the mission, the numbers, how the top 2 OKRs for the company interact with everybody else's OKRs. For example, at Leverage, I'm very proud to kind of say that if you ask a content writer, what do they do for a living? The content writer will tell you that, hey, you know what? I write content because it will help me, it will help my company get to great SEO, which will help them reduce cost of acquiring a customer, which will help it increase its gross margin. So what we also try and do is every single person in the company, all of our 150 folks, they have a very clear understanding of how their work on an everyday basis relates to what the company is trying to do at a larger ground. So I think for me, it's been the larger learnings have been around people. And I think that's what we are trying to get better at every day, even right now.
It's great to hear, Akshay. The manager NPS one is a new one that I've heard. Probably I should put it up in my venture as well. Great.
It's super useful.
No, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. We do
something after, just to kind of add on, after a certain level, you realize that I think by the time a company crosses 50, 60 people, I think up till that level, you can say anything and everything you want about culture, but culture is actually what the founder is doing day in, day out. Like they say, show, don't tell, right? Like what the founder is saying in terms of how he or she reacts when somebody takes a leave, how he or she reacts when somebody misses their targets. So I think all of that forms culture. But after the 50, 60 people, Chasm, like that's when the managers are going to be the folks who are running the company at a very large level. So you have to make sure that those 8, 10 people are the best folks. They are aligned to a crazy degree. You're spending more time with them, and also you are measuring them in the right way.
Absolutely. In the interest of time, I think I'm going to throw one more question, which is something which I believe as founders we could do. in trying to understand, so one challenge that the sector is notorious for is the cost of acquiring customers. And we had a session yesterday, like a full power pack session, where we had Varun from Times, we had a few senior folks, Apur from TechMind, a lot of folks who came in to actually tell about this thing. Now, Varun, I'm going to start with you, just to understand how you have looked at customer acquisition from a B2B standpoint in this space, and how you over a period of time have been trying to control and see how things could be reduced there, or sales cycles could be reduced. So that's one part, and then we come to the other folks with respect to customer acquisition on the B2B or on the institution side. Yeah.
Sure. So there were some interesting learnings, and there were some interesting learnings from an international perspective, right? And so it's interesting that I think if you look at enterprise sales, and if you look at it globally, so let me just step back a little. So when we were doing in India, the way sales would work with enterprise was that, and with companies, is that you can send them mailers and send reminders, and I can use my credibility in the early days, and Himanshu can use his, and we could get those meetings and then sell products and so on. So very sales heavy approach would work well, and you can just go through that sales heavy approach and kind of get into new sectors. The general philosophy we had of going into a new sector, which probably is even today, is that get a couple of anchor customers in the new sector, couple of them out of the top 10. And once you have pilots with them and have a working relationship, everyone will buy from you because you have those customers with you. What we realized when we went global is that enterprise sales has become very, very marketing focused. So it's really people, it's not really about you going to people, but people coming to you and you being able to create that buzz around in the market for them to come to you. And in fact, in the US, that was the only way it worked, right? In fact, even SEM didn't work very well. It was you need to be there on the SEO front, which would really get people to come to you and eventually buy. So even if with SEM we were getting leads, they were not getting converted out there, right? So I think for me the big learning is, and I think that's also going on, is on the consumer side, is that the sales today has become very, very marketing led. And the sales guy's job is to now get a good lead and convert it, rather than trying to open doors, be it with the consumer or be it with institutions and corporations and so on. And one needs to really strengthen marketing and have kick-ass SEO, which at least a lot of companies which I even talked to today do not concentrate enough on. And I think we need to concentrate a little more on that. I'll just make one more comment, Sumesh, on the discussion which was happening earlier around adoption versus product evolution and so on. So definitely, I think one thing which last year has done is, at least in my mind, is that if someone would have asked me 3-4 years back that does online training work in India and is there a large enough market size, the answer was no, right? And now the answer is that probably it is yes. And we've more become believers on online scaling of training by what has happened in the last year. Otherwise, you would think that we are market constrained in that. And I think the same thing happened for e-commerce at some point. So that's the good news for EdTech, that probably now there is more hope of having large enough businesses where you're doing online training and giving educational services. One of the lacunas in the market, which has stayed for long and still continues to say, is that if you need to give good learning to people, there's a lot of science which goes behind it. And, people in India do definitely understand the technology. And when we were also talking about products, right, so it was in a different space. You're able to think about products and technology, but not enough about the science, right? For example, what methods really work and what methods do not work, what pedagogies work and what pedagogies do not work, right? And like giving everyone an iPad will not solve education, right? Finally, you have to measure and see whether people are learning or not. So I think the big question, at least not only from the business point of view, the problem is that the hope will be that competition will make people improve learning, but learning is not even easily measured by the consumer. So that's also not really true. People go by brands. So finally, the big thing for India would be that will we be able to improve learning? We are again having a new market which is coming up. It's going online. We have all these tools. and so on. But when we will do an ASA report, or when we'll go back to PISA, or when we'll go to National Employability Reports with aspiring minds did in for 10 years, will we really see that people are learning more? And I think we need to not lose sight of that big question.
Yeah, excellent, Varun. Ashwini, could you throw some light around how the cost of acquiring customers on the institute side shaped up for you in terms of what you saw before and during COVID? Yeah.
Sumesh, for us, it was always like, the set of customers that we have, we always wanted to give them the best experience. In tutoring ecosystem, what we have realized is that tutors themselves are a great marketeer for us, right? So if you actually leverage that part, they have a great network of other tutors. They definitely talk a lot about things that they are doing. And in the COVID scenario, we actually leverage this entire networking way of acquiring new customers, and it has always been the DNA for our company now. So yeah, I would say that we largely depend upon the network that we have. And again, like, I think it would actually work well for all the companies in the ecosystem, right? If you actually give the best experience to your end user or customer, they themselves will become your marketeers in the coming years for sure.
Okay, got it. Upneet, what about you? How has your CAC remained stable, down, up? Upneet, I think you're on mute.
I'm saying, funnily enough, I think I've experienced some sort of customer / user acquisition across. So we have B2B, which is of course customer acquisition. We have B2C, which is user acquisition, because we are more of a very similar to right. So on the B2B, I think it's very similar to what Varun said. India is predominantly on field sales kind of a market. So one of the things we've realized, and here we go by Web 1.0 companies, right? The Naukris of the world, the Just Dials of the world, ki bhai bande laga do, right? So you just have to clamor at the university's door long enough to get a contract, and then of course performance matters, yeah, right? You have to deliver numbers. So I think that that part of the business, I don't really look at from a CAC point of view. It's more around when we have cash in the bank, we just go all out once there is enough noise in the market about your brand, and then some of it is inbound. On the B2C, that is user acquisition side for the platform, we've predominantly, given the fact that we've mostly been bootstrapped, raised very small, little capital, we have had the fortune of knowing or being strong at SEO. So currently today we have about 6 odd million monthly traffic on one platform, another million on the second. So we have close to about, I would say, 200 million page views, 250 million page views that we do annually across all our platforms. But yes, we've started. So CAC again there, since universities, when they work with us, there's almost an unlimited RO, right? You can drive as many enrollments as you want. So after a point in time in our business, the challenge is that because we have to invest money upfront, that is get users now, and universities pay us after a certain point in time, it's more around cash flow management. Otherwise, on the CAC side, frankly, it's not. We want to invest in long-term measures like SEO. At the same time, of course, to run the hamster wheel, if I may, we have to invest a lot in digital also. But we keep that in check, I think, and that has gotten a lot of discipline within the company. So at no point in time, so we've been profitable all 5 years of our existence. So this is how we look at it. But of course, always would love to have more cash in the bank to kind of scale the business. But I think that's a constraint we are okay with living with right now, because I know it kind of feeds into long-term fundamentals for the company.
Great. And Akshay, I think for you have started adding stacks to improve the lifetime value by taking them from the guidance, then putting them through the process, then looking at how they can get into accommodation. So I think you've strategically thought around lifetime value in a better way. How is the CAC very high for you, and does it like really get offset with the lifetime value is coming in through right now?
Sure. No, Sumesh, when I look at CAC or when I look at the core service is still college admissions. Everything else is more like a value add, where I'm saying that I will help the student get the entire journey at one place. I'll help them essentially. The ticker is ticking, so I don't know how much time I have. So I'll make sure that they have the entire piece at one place, which is why we've kind of built out this OneView platform. But from a CAC perspective, I only look at the core service, which is college admissions. And there, I think we have the benefit of having a decently well built out unit economics. So we can make those experiments and go up and down. What I've generally kind of focused on over the last couple of years is having multiple hooks to play alongside it. For example, doing a lot of content marketing, playing SEO, playing product hooks. We have had some successful features built out which are out there on affiliates, like a cost of living calculator and accommodation finder, things like that, where we get a lot of leads from, good quality leads. But I think, to be super honest, what is really, when we look at the unit economics and when we look at those Excel sheets, what really works at the end of the day at a scaled level is only performance marketing. So now the idea is that how do you optimize within performance marketing and try to move away from Facebook, Google, Instagram, where we are also experimenting with other platforms like InShots Hindi and Josh, Mitro, Roposo, GeoTV, brand placement, the Xiaomi Ads Network, a bunch of those things, right?
All right.
So I think that experiment has been very useful for me over the last 4 to 5 months, and that's where I'm spending a lot of my time in terms of how to acquire customers from that tier 2 to tier 4 build, who are, by the way, coming digitally at a space at a pace that none of us can kind of imagine at the moment.
Absolutely.
So I think that has been super interesting for me at the moment. But very clear realization that that content marketing, product hooks, all of those pieces will take time to get traction. You need to be in business for. We have a company in our space called niche.com who have by far the best SEO out there, but it's taken them 14 to 16 years. So either I'm essentially building out for 14 to 16 years and waiting out to essentially monetize my services and monetizing it now to kind of look at it from that lens, or if I look at I want to scale on a slightly more rapid pace, I might as well see what is my number one channel and just beat the drum around it like really, really fast.
Absolutely. Actually, that was great. I think we have a lot more to speak, but the moderators, the backstage is trying to pull us out. It was awesome talking to all of you. Thanks, Varun, Akshay, Upneet, and Nikhil.
Thanks, Sumesh.
Thank you so much.
Most welcome.
Take care and best of luck to all of you. So the next session that we have is on the National Education Policy. What is it there for the audience is what we are trying to discover around it. So stay tuned and watch that session. Thank you so much. And I'm taking leave.